Looking back on the journey of ZMF, thankfully been a pretty gradual process. I don't know if I would have been able to stay sane had I taken out a bunch of venture capital or whatnot, or had people looking after the company. What that started with was me making a headphone for my brother for Christmas, which was basically taking the stock T50RP and doing, I think, one of the Blue Monkey Flyer mods from HeadFi that he had posted. One interesting thing that, if you want to look at the start of my journey, is we can go and, I found this pretty great Headphonisty article this guy Trav Wilson wrote. The history of the T50s of Fantech making these headphones goes all the way back to 1978. The current iterations of T50RP and then the Mark III that came out in 2015, I know these are the ones that have been modified the most. All the information that Trav wrote about, I think he did a really great job of breaking down everything there is to know about the RP drivers. And it's also a great way to learn about, basic planar magnetic technology, just to see what Fantech was thinking back in the day and what they changed as time went on and all that stuff. Back in the day, I like to look at archive.org. On the site, the first thing I wrote was ZMF headphones Ortho Magic. And so, we kind of went from being known as a T50, planar ortho modding company to being a dynamic driver company. Back then it was just T50. And actually, if you go hunt on Amazon, you can see me talking about my love for the HE500, because that was my first really good headphone that I owned, and being a planar magnetic headphone. And I could just talking about how I wanted a closed version of the HE500, and that's what I was kind of trying to achieve with my T50 modding. I really want to mix my love of guitars and my love of headphones and make a headphone that kind of was like the acoustic guitar that I always wanted. And this is actually one of the first 6 ZMF times vibros ZMF history. This was before I was finishing the wood or anything myself. And, definitely really cool to have one of these around. I believe this is cherry wood just finished in straight shellac. And this is where we kind of get to the start of the foundations of the Caldera, as I started taking apart the driver and messing with the airflow and how that, was changing the sound based on the magnets. That's how we eventually came up with the ZMF Blackwood, which was a modification to the driver where I opened up the airflow on the front magnets of the driver. And I remember doing a bunch of tests where I made 3 of these with the magnet mod and 3 without, listen to the sound and be like, is this really making a difference, or is this just my mind playing with me? And I realized after doing a bunch of them that it really did make a significant difference. And you can see this is the measurement of the Ori right here. And honestly, not all that different than the ZMF Atticus. And that's kind of always what I tell people, is that the ZMF Atticus is kind of the Ori of the dynamic driver lineup for the ZMFs. And so it definitely had a, big mid-bassy sound, was trying to make this small driver sound big and move a lot of air. And that's, kind of what it was doing. And I know there's people still love this headphone. I really appreciate that. And so that kind of ended my journey with the T50 headphone. So it was then that I was like, hey, I really want to make my own proprietary headphone. And, the thing I think that's interesting is that I went right into trying to make a custom planar driver right when I started making the dynamic drivers. And as you know, the first two headphones were the Atticus and Icon, which, ended up being, just a dream come true, making a headphone from scratch like that. But my planar journey, like my big question was like, I don't want to come out with a planar magnetic headphone that is the same as all this stuff out there. These last 6 years has been me slowly kind of making different drivers, failing, a lot of failures, and until I finally, was able to make one that was unique, had the sound that I thought, represented what has become known as the ZMF sound. And then flash forward, a number of years and, came out with the first dynamic driver headphone in the Otor. This is one of my personal sets in Wengewood. And then with the Atrium, introduced this Atrium damping system, which is important to the Caldera because it is used on the Caldera. And this system was really just meant to, be a tuning system where you can really get the most out of any driver by modifying how much resistance the back of the driver has. And that's important because the front of the driver in the Caldera actually has, what we're calling CAMS technology, but having those magnets on the front of the driver be fluted, it's the only way to have that front of the driver magnet really feel like a totally open headphone. Whereas, if you have the flat magnets where they're facing the driver, how most planar magnetic drivers are, you're gonna have, air getting trapped in there much more. Whereas if you have the drivers kind of fluted out, what we're calling, Caldera shape, the airflow is just gonna spread out and sound really natural. It is kind of, definitely a dream come true. Making those T50RP headphones, and taking apart hundreds of them, breaking hundreds of them to get to a point where, all that pain and time of modifying headphones has come to a fruition of me being able to give this out to the world, have one for myself, and hear what the last 12 years or so of modding and then making proprietary headphones has been about. And so I'm just really excited to share the Caldera with everyone. Watch the rest of the videos on our YouTube channel for the rest of the info on the Caldera. We'll definitely go into the tech and the measurements and all that stuff. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, leave me some comments below, and we'll move on. And definitely hope you get the ears on a Caldera at some point so I can share this sound with you.